I'll just give a formal introduction. Dr. Arham did his MS from Gandhi Medical College, Bhopal in the year 1997. And since then, he is practicing here in Bhopal. He has presented papers on allergy in various international allergy conferences. He has keen interest in academic teaching also. He has his own temporal bone dissection lab in his clinic itself. He is starting a teaching site for endoscopic ear surgery. The videos of his endoscopic ear surgeries are available on YouTube. Those who are interested can go and see. He is among very few surgeons around the globe who have performed endoscopic mastoid exploration with excellent long-term results. He has made 2 groups on internet, LinkedIn, endoscopic ear surgeons group, and second is Natural Immunotherapy group. He has authored 1 book by the name of Red Book on Allergy. He has organized many camps, and he runs a regular camp at his farmhouse for the last 20 years. I'll request Dr. Arham to speak on the topic. We will take up the questions after this session.
It's a great pleasure for me to present this new concept, the modern concept of allergy among you. You see, we all know that incidence of allergic rhinitis, or for that matter bronchial asthma, or all the allergic disorders, whether it's skin allergy, all of them, they are rising. The rise of incidence is so much that in the last 50 years, there is 100 times increase in the incidence. Presently, there are more than 500 million patients of allergy worldwide. It has become a global health problem. Laws which are related to allergy, even if you see in the United States alone, it is more than $20 billion financial losses due to allergy. And we all know that the more incidence of allergy is there in USA, Europe, Australia, these 3 big continents, and other developed nations. Whether it's due to affluence or modernization or their westernization, we will discuss. The biggest question is, what is the cause of this sudden increase in allergy in the last 50 years? Do you think that this increase in allergy, 500 million patients in the world, by 2025, the World Allergy Organization has calculated that every second child will be having allergy by 2025. So everybody is looking for the answer of why there is so much of increase in incidence of allergy. Do you think this is due to poor medical care in these affluent nations? Poor medical care in USA, can you even imagine about that? Or do you think it is due to lack of facilities for avoidance of exposure to those allergens? The whole world is considering that these allergens are causing allergy, and so they have devised all the methods of prevention from coming in contact with allergen. Best possible air conditioners, Pinkerton HEPA helmets, each and everything, even the house wall paints in the houses, free of allergens. Or do you think if there is some lack of basic understanding in allergic disorders which is causing the rise of incidence? You see, mistakes were done previously. I'll share with you a very common mistake. Before Galileo Galilei invented telescope, the whole world was of the opinion that Earth lies in the center of the solar system and the planets and sun revolves around the Earth. When Galileo invented telescope, he told the world, no, it is the sun which lies in the center of the solar system and the planets and the Earth, they are revolving around the sun. You know what happened to Galileo? He was sentenced for 319 years of prison. There are other mistakes which were there. Even the ENT surgeons, they had committed a mistake of drilling a hole through the inferior meatus in cases of maxillary sinusitis, the inferior meatal introstomy, in the hope that the secretion will drain through that hole, aided by the gravity. We had committed this mistake for more than 100 years until Messerklinger, one of the ENT surgeons who had observed the fact that all the secretions from the maxillary sinus, they follow a typical track which is against the gravity. All the secretions, they are always propelled through the mucociliary clearance. It comes through the natural ostia from the middle meatus, not through the inferior meatus. Even if you punch a hole in the inferior meatus, the secretion doesn't come out. They follow a specific course, which is anti-gravity. He was the father of modern endoscopic sinus surgery. One simple fact changed the whole concept. Similarly, there is a mistake going on, overprotection of infants and children, pregnant mothers, general population from coming in contact with allergens. There is a generalized avoidance of allergy. And this is preventing the development of tolerance at molecular immunological levels during infancy and childhood. We all know the reticuloendothelial system. Our immune system, which is comprising of organs like thymus, tonsils, ear spaces, bursa, lymph nodes. All of them are working at their best during early years of life, from 2 to 12 years of life. All of us know that these organs, few of them even regress later on in life. So the best time to get the immunity is the early years of life. You see, the power of developing immunotolerance is more in early life, in children. We all know that whenever we are doing immunotherapy, artificial immunotherapy in children, less doses are required in children. For artificial immunotherapy throughout the world, everybody knows that less doses are required for children. It is more successful in early age. We all know that artificial immunotherapy has got a risk of even, there are more than 7 deaths reported. There are 5 to 35% chances of complications. Now, how I observed this particular thing in my life and why other people were not able to diagnose this. I got a chance to study patients from each and every subset of population. For me, starting from a countryside where I had organized regular farms on Sundays and during my holidays. So I was in close contact with people. Village people doing agriculture, or the laborers. They were poor people. But in the last 20 years, I had observed that there is very little incidence of allergy. Not due to underreporting, I am giving them free treatment. Nearly majority of population from that area is coming to me for treatment. So it is not just underreporting, but there is definitely less incidence of allergy amongst those people. And I had seen people, patients in Bhopal Memorial Hospital, a lot of them, nearly more than 95,000 patients in 7 years. The incidence of allergy was less than 5%. If I tell you even simple incidences in India, In Bhopal, we have got maximum incidence. If you compare it to the affluent population in our clinics, the incidence is around 10 to 15%. You go to more affluent cities, more developed ones, you go to Bangalore, there is 26% allergy. The more we follow the rules from those affluent countries like USA, Europe, the more we are tracked, the more incidence we are having. Even the Middle East, Gulf countries, when they were not having too much of oil, or that matter Saudi Arabia, the incidence is rising in last 50 years. The more affluence is there, the more westernization is there, the more avoidance techniques are there, the more better air conditioners are there. What is the situation? I had started an observational study, I can call it a quad. This was a quad of 30 children who were exposed to all sorts of allergens in totally natural circumstances. This was a very controlled exposure. Though I always carried allergy shots and emergency medications with me, but I never used them. For 20 years, I've done this study on 30 children from affluent families. On regular picnics, during regular picnics, they were exposed to all sorts of allergens. You can imagine the allergen from food allergen, peanut, it is grown in the fields, children plucking it out, just eating raw peanuts, cooked peanuts, roasted peanuts. For that matter, you can imagine all the berries, tamarinds. You can imagine what can be there in a big orchard. All sorts of fruits at every stage of ripening. All sorts of dust, pollen, dander, pests. All allergens that you can imagine in that natural circumstances. They were playing with clay. They were making toys out of clay. Regularly. I had included 2 of my son in this study. They enjoyed this study. And believe me, all of them, though 2 children in this study, they were having allergy in their mothers. 30 children, only one of them, he has left the study after 10 years due to his due to the job of transfer of his parents from India. Otherwise, 29 children, they never suffered from any allergy. I quote a few examples which will support my point. For me, exposure, controlled exposure to allergens is a rule for your children. I support some facts, some hard facts. You see, any population which is not exposed to a particular allergen, they don't develop tolerance. They suffer whenever they come in contact with a new allergen to which they were never exposed previously. One of the examples is people from Barcelona. Soybean was sent from India to Barcelona, and when it was unloaded at the harbor, the air was going in a particular direction in the city. The people suffered from bronchial asthma because in Barcelona they don't grow soybean. They are never exposed to soybean dust. Those people suffered badly. Another example is the Rosophis plant, which was planted in quail. The moment it flowered after some years, it caused severe allergies. Or all of us know that when American army was there in Iraq, they never get training during dust storms. In America, there are no dust storms, but in Iraq there were dust storms, and the American army suffered badly. The maximum drug they has consumed was fexofenadine. They were having zero immunotolerance to that particular allergen, and they suffered. You can see that the most healthiest people, but they were not having immunotolerance for that dust. Now, another very good example is of Parthenium hysterosus. All of you know gajar ghas, and we know the potential of allergy that it can cause. This gajar ghas was introduced in India in 1965 from USA, along with the red wheat seed, which was having a very good production. And this was shared by the farmer. the farmers accepted this wheat seed, and this allergens spread throughout India. People were not having any immunotolerance to this allergen. Within 30 years, there was severe reports of severe allergies, severe bronchial asthma, severe allergic rhinitis, skin reactions. Because you know, laborers and farmers, they have to do each and every, they are plucking those allergens. And there was a havoc of it. There was a great problem. At that time, I was a little child and I observed this fact because people and laborers, they had refused working in those fields. I had seen even in my own farm that people had refused working in those fields where there was allergen. But we were children, we were playing along with the children from the villages, and we were playing in those conditions in which there was allergens in the field, in our field, in our cricket field, there was a lot of allergens. So I had observed this fact even before I was doing MBBS. I had observed the fact that those children who were born and brought up with this allergens in their backyard, they never suffered from any allergic symptoms. This is a long observation which I had made over a period of years. And I had presented this observation. My paper is selected in Milan, Italy. I will be there in June this year. Along with one more paper, this is selected. So, we see exposure creates immunotolerance during early years of life. A very important observation is from the families which had migrated to the United States and Europe for jobs in the last 40 years. Their children, though those parents were not having any allergic symptoms, but their children who were born in USA and now their grandchildren which are there, they are having more than 40% incidence of allergy. You can imagine, you cannot have mutation in 2 generations. It's very difficult. But the moment you start following those avoidance techniques, you suffer. This is a great example. I had seen this in 16 families, and now I had cases of severe anaphylaxis among these people, children, from parents from India. They are suffering from anaphylaxis due to eating single peanut. A single peanut is causing anaphylaxis, and they have to be, every time they have to be hospitalized if by mistake they consume peanuts. So you can imagine this rising incidence of allergy. You can see the role of avoidance. It is already a proven fact now that when you keep animals like mice in isolated atmospheres, they develop atopy. In zero allergen zones, you just rear them and they develop atopy. And the result of my study of 30 children, I had seen that even my son is feigning allergens on his face without any allergic symptoms. They can consume anything because they are already exposed to those particular things. They are afraid of these mulberry plants. You see, this is a mulberry plant with lot of pollen load. The mulberry has got extraordinary pollen load. There is no problem with these children who are previously exposed. So my comment is, natural immunotherapy, if it is done at the right time, at the right age, at the right place, and the right natural dose, nature has provided you the dose, an increasing and decreasing gradient of all the allergens. There is no sudden flowering in any plant, there is no sudden rise of any allergen. Every season there is a difference. So you have got exposure from a natural gradient which is a very controlled exposure. And you can arrange regular picnics for this particular exposure, this natural exposure. So I call natural immunotherapy a child's play. This is my younger son, Mafdawal. He is here right now. So this exposure is very simple. You can arrange it in your backyard. We have to avoid these mistakes. It is very important for me to tell you the mistake which we are doing. And every time I am presenting this slide anywhere in any international conference, there are people who are opposed to these concepts. avoiding all the allergens in early years of life is the biggest mistake. Dr. Masters was here from Germany and he was telling, Dr. Arham, do you want my children to be there in astabals? And I had asked him a simple question, Dr. Masters, why do you want to send your children to astabals? You have got a very beautiful backyard. Just let them play there. Then people in USA, they are so afraid of allergens that they are cutting trees. Las Vegas, Nevada, many cities in USA, many places you can find they had removed the total mulberry plants, olive plants, due to the fear of more than 2 lakh plants that cut, due to the fear of allergen. Every highway they are calculating, they are putting it the figures on internet, what is the level of allergen on that particular highway. They are issuing warnings whether you should go there or not. And they are planning to introduce those systems even in India, so as you can have a knowledge about a particular exposure anywhere. They are banning the pollen producing grasses from the lawns. They had banned Bermuda grasses, which they had grown previously, but now they are afraid of it. They are afraid of those allergens. Then many male plants they have banned. There is a specific opal system for gardening. It was devised by Mr. Arham. He is telling what plants you should use in your indoors and your lawns. Allergy-free gardening, which we call it. An opal system for allergy-free gardening. And now the most worst situation is with the food allergens. They are removing, we have got a big list of food ingredients. There they are putting things from food ingredients into the section of food allergens. Every day the list of food ingredients is decreasing and they are putting things in the list of food allergens. They are trying avoidance. The moment you get a case report of a particular allergen, next day that is avoided. I give you an example. Dr. Joel sir is sitting here, he knows about gluten allergy. Definitely there are gluten allergy cases of gluten allergy in Bhopal, India. But see what they had done. They had promoted the concept so much that people in Chicago, 30% of them they had stopped eating wheat. They are going gluten free. Big thing. 30% population not taking gluten. Because few people suffered from gluten allergy. The whole population tries to stop, tries to avoid it. And it is there. These figures are already there on internet. You can check how many things they are avoiding. And what havoc, what problem they are creating, what situation they are getting. There are, one more mistake is there are continuous promotional advertisements. You all know that even Shah Rukh Khan is giving one aid about a wall paint. You just use it in your house, it will be free of fungus, it will not accumulate dirt, dust on it, and you will be safe from allergies. Every time they are talking about something to avoid allergens.
For a very interesting and eye-opener presentation on the common day-to-day topic. But I have two questions for you. Like, as you very well concluded that exposure to allergens is a basic thing which you have found out. But why the people from Western countries, the experts from Western countries, are not able to detect the cause of rising incidence of allergies? And my second question is, as we have just seen your book, Red Book of Allergy, I would like to know your perspective for naming it Red Book.
In any international conference, quite often people ask the same thing. Why they are not able to detect this simple thing? You see, the maximum majority of research in allergy is done by pharmaceutical companies. It is a sponsored research most of the time. There's commerce involved. They have too many allergy-related commercial products. Do you think they will support a study where you are getting rid of allergy through simple natural exposure without earning anything? This is the first thing. This is the first important thing. Second thing is the forced high pressure advertisement. The European population, the American population, the Australians, when you tell them something, they make it a fashion trend. The more high pressure advertisement is there, the more fashion is there. And believe me, I'll tell you one incident. One of the LinkedIn groups, which the name is gluten-free group, gluten-minded. They are presenting with beautiful models, and they are claiming that they are eating gluten-free diet for their beauty. You can check it on the net. They are presenting hunks, male models, and they are telling you that they are consuming gluten-free diet. That is the reason they are having this. So this is a false, high-pressure, continuous advertising. This is a disaster. 30% population from Chicago stopped eating wheat for that. Can you imagine that? Sir.
In your talk, you talked about the exposure of children to allergens.
Sir.
Is it not unethical?
I'm afraid that this question has come up at this time. So there is a very deadly issue. I'm exposing children to all sorts of allergens, and somebody can sue me for that. I think there should be some ethics involved. Sir, I would like to share one thing with you. For the first time in the world, somebody had presented that exposure can be good. There was a paper published in '91 from Dr. Peter Arkwright and Timothy J. Davis. And the topic of that paper was eat dirt. You can imagine. The next thing is, when you talk about ethics, there is a company in Europe which is earning $7.5 billion as a profit in 2012 and 13. They are preparing a tablet program where they are preparing the tablet from the feces, the droppings of house dust mite. The most allergenic part of house dust mite is the feces. They are preparing tablet out of that, and they are keeping it in the mouth of children for immunotherapy. And they are earning 7.5 billion as profit. There are only 4 allergens which they had used. One of them is cat allergen. They are putting the dandruff from the cat, and they are putting it in through the sublingual immunotherapy, they are putting it in the mouth of children. And people in Europe are doing that. I think this natural exposure is far better than that particular thing. Thank you, sir.
As we have rightly pointed out, is for most of the diseases which have been plaguing mankind, for which still there is not much answer, they fall in different areas of medicine and surgery. Even in gastroenterology, I am a gastroenterologist basically. One interesting observation, there are some diseases, especially one very important area in gastroenterology is the so-called inflammatory bowel disease. The classical example of this is Crohn's disease. Till 80s and early 90s, it was thought that probably India will never have Crohn's disease, and probably Crohn's disease doesn't exist in India. But things started changing subsequently in 90s, and now this disease is a well-established entity in India. Probably imaging studies, proper endoscopy diagnosis may have contributed to some extent. But definitely there is a rise in this particular disease. This disease has been with America and developed countries since early 30s. When Crohn's in fact discovered disease way back in 1932. Probably the industrialization and affluence has brought this particular disease, because this inflammatory bowel disease is considered to be kind of a dysbiosis. In a genetically predisposed individual, some environmental triggers are there which are resulting in production of. So came as a byproduct of this concept came the so-called hygiene hypothesis. where people have now started experimenting and trying to use actual trichoris pinworm ova, which are fed to these people to improve their innate immunities to counter this. And some good results have been seen in some of the studies. Of course, that research is still very premature. It's still a bench, I would say, not exactly bedside, but people are experimenting on that. So that concept, I think, is coming in some way or other in so many diseases.
First of all, as Dr. Joel has pointed out, it is very clear. He has been doing endoscopies for long years now, and he is coming across these diseases now, inflammatory bowel syndrome. You see, he has discussed about hygiene hypothesis. At least 20 years have passed for this hygiene hypothesis, which was given by David Strachan from England. David Strachan has mentioned that it is the PAMPs, pathogen-associated molecular patterns, or in simple words, it is only the exposure to infections. If you avoid exposure to infections, you get it. I had just diversified this concept. It is not just infections. Infections are only 10% the load of total allergen. If you compare the total load of allergen, infection comprises only 10%. So hygiene hypothesis from David Strachan is perfect as far as that 10% part of infection is concerned. But for you, pollens doesn't come under infection. These dust, dirt, dander, molds, they don't come under infection. So you have got a broader perspective. If you enlarge the view of David Strachan, which I tried to do in my lectures, everywhere in the world, I got questions that are you following that hygiene hypothesis? I tell them, yes, 10% I am following it, but I had expanded the spectrum of that hypothesis.
डॉक्टर आरम ने एक किताब लिखी है जिसका नाम है ग्रेट बुक ऑन एलर्जी। हम डॉक्टर बगारे से रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे कि इसका विमोचन
It's a proud privilege for me to open up this book. In fact, this is a very useful and informative book, and you know a lot of things about the latest concept of allergy and its treatment. Dr. Arham was my student, and I am really proud of him. Thank you very much.
all good things have to come to an end. Thank you very much. I will request Dr. Rashmi Goyal to propose the vote of thanks.
Before vote of thanks, this is the time to have the vote of health. This is the time to honor our chairperson as well as guest speaker. Where is Dr.? Yes, Dr. Dr. Ganguly, please. Dr. Johari.